There are so many things that people don't know about my life, and so much more that one wouldn't even imagine. There are also many things that people probably don't want to know. You see, society's intention is to deal more with someone's personal life than it is with their work. This is an old habit that is difficult to change. They are saying that if you want to learn someone's real character, you need to start from their childhood. As everyone already knows, I was born on the royal estate of Sandringham on November the 14th, 1949. Weighing 7 pounds 6 ounces. My birth was the first time in centuries there was no government minister present to witness the arrival for our future heir to the throne. Isn't it exciting to begin breaking records the day you come into the world? I jest, of course. My sense of humor is definitely a gift I inherited from my mother. I was christened Charles Philip Arthur George on December the 15th, 1948 in the music hall of Buckingham Palace. When I was 3 years old, my grandfather, King George VI, died, and my mother succeeded to the throne on February the 6th, 1952. I can recall being surrounded by many people, while my parents were always busy with their many engagements. My mother, while still mourning the loss of her father, was full of determination and commitment to offer herself to the greatest honor of the crown and the service of our people. I was initially cared for by 2 Scottish nannies and a governess. My grandmama, the Queen's mother, was taking care of me while my parents left me and my sister Anne for a global tour. It has been explained to me that we as a family are taking care of our nation. In future, I will have to do the same and take over the throne. You cannot choose your destiny. Millions of people expect us to do our best and help them in every possible way. My first day of education was at Hill House School in London's fashionable Knightsbridge. I had exactly the same feeling that I assume every kid of my age has that time. I was excited to learn more and spend time with my new friends. Or at least that's what I thought. But mostly I loved anything relevant to arts, music and sport, and I started playing cricket for the first time. Now, that doesn't sound significant, but it was for me at the age of 6. But I only attended for 9 months. The following year, at age of 8, I went to Trece School as a boarder. It was the oldest prep school in the country. My father had previously been a pupil there. Here I am handling my first huge responsibility. My education was planned from my dad and the Queen, of course. I was 9 years old enough to participate in discussions with my parents. I was a very shy and quiet boy. You actually realize the impact of your title and the importance of your duty by observing the reactions from the people you are surrounded by. I remained a team until 1962 when I moved to Scotland boarding school Gordonstown, in which my father also previously attended. I was 13 when I joined this school and remained here for 5 years. I studied a range of subjects, but I was also very involved in extracurricular activities. I played cello, sang in a choir, joined the debate club, and played Macbeth in a school play, acting in various drama shows throughout my stay. My passion for art and music could be paraphrased as weakness for a future leader. But I feel so fulfilled and peaceful when I am involved with arts, and especially music. It isn't only the creativity and the joy of it, but moreover the fun and the sense of freedom you receive from this spiritual process. I always encourage every child to play a musical instrument. I also took up sailing, Highlands walking expeditions, and pottery at the school. I love seeing nature. Many times I've thought of travel, more abroad, over the seas. Those were great years in my life. The childhood where a child discovers his talents, develops their skills, and learns as many possible things, and obviously creates his friend zone. Where it wasn't always easy, despite you might think I didn't enjoy my time at Gordonstown, and I always preferred the safety of my home.
It was quite harsh. He was badly bullied and very isolated. On the rugby pitch, there was, you would see it, there would be a couple of people who thought they would do Prince Charles, and they would beat him up in the scrum, pull his ears, thump him.
At Gordonstown developed my willpower and self-control, helped me to discipline myself. We ran our own fire brigade, we had our own sea rescue service, mountain rescue, coast guards, and lifeguards. It was an adventure and we were damn good. I'm always astonished by the amount of rot talked about Gordonstown and the careless use of ancient cliches used to describe it. It was only tough in the sense that it demanded more of you, and as an individual, than most other schools did, mentally or physically. During my second undergraduate year, I spent a term at the University College of Wales in Aberystwyth in order to study the Welsh language and Wales history as Prince of Wales at the time. I always undertook extracurriculars at Cambridge, such as playing polo against Oxford, playing cello in the orchestra, and attending an archaeological dig in Jersey, among other activities.
For the first time, cameras were given special access for a whole year. The film Royal Family was a phenomenon.
Terribly rude words.
It is extremely difficult sometimes to keep a straight face. When the Home Secretary said to me, there's a gorilla coming in. So I said, what an extraordinary remark to make, very unkind about anybody. And so, I stood in the middle of the room and pressed the bell and the doors opened, and there was a gorilla. And I had the most terrible trouble in keeping, he had short body, long arms. And I had the most appalling trouble.
It was amazing. This was the first time that we'd really heard them talk to one another rather than addressing us.
Well, you realise this is guaranteed failure. Absolute total guaranteed failure.
The car's not going to work.
I don't quite know how to put this, but I never liked the idea of the royal family film. I always thought it was a rotten idea. The attention that had been brought on one ever since one was a child, you just didn't want any more. I mean, the last thing you needed was greater access.
The salad is ready.
Good.
I don't remember enjoying any part of that.
This is a season.
Very little happening to them.
I think it was a mistake ever to agree to make that film. We all knew the Queen's not like us lesser mortals, but when I was a kid, nobody wanted to know those things. That was the Queen's private life. She had very little private life to begin with, so what she had, she was entitled to keep.
There. Oh, 5 feet on there.
Ain't no trouble.
I love it.
I thought it was a delightful programme. A great many of us hadn't necessarily seen her in the role of a mother and a wife. We saw her as head of the state. To suddenly think, good gracious me, she does exactly the same things, enjoys the same kind of things that we do.
Yeah, all right, we're coming. There's a lot of meat cooking. Very little happening to them. Rather cold and isolated up the road.
So we do that.
That is the prettiest face I have yet seen.
I'm on the roof. I'm waiting for my lunch to arrive down at the bottom.
Be carrying on the family business, which doesn't mean being solemn all the time.
I want to take this opportunity of speaking to all Welsh people, not only in this arena, but wherever they may be. The British Empire and Commonwealth Games in the capital, together with all the activities of the Festival of Wales, have made this a memorable year for the Principality. I have therefore decided to mark it further by an act which will, I hope, give as much pleasure to all Welshmen as it does to me. I intend to create my son Charles, Prince of Wales, today. When he is grown up, I will present him to you at Carnarvon.
How precisely did you hear that you were going to be Prince of Wales?
Well, I think it was, I remember sitting in the headmaster's study at Cheam, and we were all watching the television, and there were several other boys there, even little ones. I remember being acutely embarrassed when it was announced, and I heard this marvelous great cheer coming from the stadium in Cardiff. And I think for a little boy of 9, it was rather bewildering. I seem to remember, all the others turned and looked at me in sort of amazement. And it perhaps didn't mean all that much then. Later on, as I grew older, it became more apparent what it meant. And now it's even more apparent what it means.
Mr. Gwynfor Evans, the Welsh Nationalist Member of Parliament, said on behalf of his supporters that they were anxious to protect you against exploitation by politicians in this context. Do you feel yourself exploited in any way on this?
No, I love the cry that I'm a political tool. The idea of being a political tool is so marvelous anyway. Not really, no. I hope not. No, I know I'm not exploited by politicians, personally. I mean, perhaps the investiture was encouraged and pushed by certain politicians. But, I mean, not as far as I can make out blatantly. I think, you see, it's a very convenient cry for people who are anti the investiture. And, it's a very convenient one to hang on to, because it gives them a jolly good argument. And you say, anything you say to them, oh, well, you're being exploited, and there it is. And it doesn't matter if you say, I'm not.
This was one of the most stressful days of my life. Journalists and the media went crazy. Everyone's watching my every move and hanging on my every word. I remember this special day as the date that I dedicated to Wales and national service.
If the Prince has radical views about the established church, he has an equally challenging attitude towards the armed forces. As Colonel-in-Chief of 8 regiments, he is their impassioned advocate, and he worries about the cutbacks throughout the services.
I'm afraid that I believe that we delude ourselves if we think that humanity is becoming ever more civilized, ever more sophisticated, and ever more reasonable. It's simply not the case. And the armed forces are our main insurance policy. But I also foresee more and more having to play an international policeman's role.
As the sovereign, he would be head of the armed forces. As Prince of Wales, he contemplates in public a prospect that others only whisper in private.
It's a very difficult thing to balance, it seems to me. But we can't do everything, clearly. It's the problem. That's why I think we ought to be paid to do it. By other people. I'm sorry, I'm straying into another territory.
Into mercenary armies.
Yeah. Well, we're jolly good at it.
You wouldn't have any qualms about being sovereign over a mercenary army?
They would be entirely mercenary. But, in this age of the free market, you know?
I have gained precious memories from my military service. I learned to manage every case of national defense, and I definitely became more responsible, organized and disciplined as a leader. We should always be grateful, thankful and respectful to the military for the services they offer us and what they sacrifice every day. In 1976, I took a decision to start a program that would actually help a lot of young people who aren't so lucky. When I left the Navy, I felt that I need to give back to the society and use my money wisely for a bigger purpose. This project has become the UK's leading youth charity, offering training, personal development, business startup support, mentoring and advice.
Twice a year, the Prince has the use of Sandringham for himself. Here, he not only has friends to stay, but holds meetings and seminars, planning strategies and preparing speeches. He's long been tempted to say publicly that Britain should have a form of national service, not necessarily in the armed forces, but in the community. Until now, though, he's resisted lighting that particular touch paper. But with youth unemployment and juvenile crime now etched on the landscape, he thinks the issue should at least be explored.
I've always been very intrigued by what happens on the continent. In Germany, for instance. And I'll say this because, again, it's one of those difficult things to say, but there they have a national service arrangement, which means that you can do community service as an alternative to military service. And they tell me in Germany that they couldn't keep their hospitals and old people's homes and handicap centres and things going without all the help from young people. And I sometimes think that we're the only country in Europe which doesn't have this kind of approach. I felt for a long time that it's a pity we don't.
In the meantime, there is the Prince's Trust and the annual week which it organises at Caister, a holiday camp about an hour from Sandringham.
Bring with us, it must be one of Scope's lot.
Your names, badges and everything else is in there.
I've got to ask you young lads who don't want to go out on the beach.
400 young men and women, all are unemployed, most are deprived, many despair of the future. The Prince's Trust is their rescue service.
I think I minded about the way things were going, the way things were. And I remembered how much good had been done, as far as I was concerned anyway, with the kind of education I'd had, in helping to motivate me and give me a bit of self-confidence and being challenged, which I think is terribly important. And I've always felt that everybody has some potential, some particular talent that is so often obscured.
In 9 years, 4,000 young people have been through the scheme, which is run by volunteers.
I refuse to accept that I can't do anything about it. I mean, that's why I've been trying for the last 15, 20 years, whatever it is, to do something. But it's only in a very, very small way in my case.
And remember the risk factor now?
You won't believe the difficulty I had at the start. For the first year, there was immense scepticism from the Home Office and all these sort of characters. I've always said with the Prince's Trust that we wanted to take risks. And it's worth taking risks.
This is really part of the whole exercise, to show that we're doing something already.
Yes.
And not just sitting around and wasting our time.
Yes.
And at this point in time, £450,000 has been given out to about 450 projects. And I think that's rather encouraging.
Absolutely marvellous. And in the future, some of the appeal fund is going to be permanently available, isn't it?
That's right.
This is the intention.
Well, the point is, you see, that half the money raised will go back to the local appeals on a county basis, and they've already submitted their projects, which the 450 are from the local appeals. The rest of the money will be kept in a central fund, and the income from that will be used to support projects in all sorts of different areas of the country. And there'll be a system which the leaflets now produced, that people can see what the guidelines are for applying for grants and so on from the central trust.
Tell us about the different ways the Trust supports young people all over the UK.
Well, as I say, over 30 years, I've been tried to find ways, meeting the particular needs and challenges that people face, and really aim to try and bring out people's best talents and potential. So all it is, I think, is an investment in the future. And that, has grown and grown now. So 66,000 businesses we've started in the last 20-something years.
When I met Camilla, I was so impressed. It was the very first time I could be totally myself. She earned my trust, my friendship, and my deep love among few people in my life. I don't regret getting married to Diana. I loved her. She gave me 2 amazing sons. After all, she was a special gifted woman who served as princess of our nation. Our actions and appearances as a couple had great impact on the lives of many people. I was so happy. That's a feeling that only parents have the privilege to fully empathize with. As a father, I was impatient to reach the point where my boys should be grown enough to do a lot of activities together. I wanted to teach them all that I knew, to help them learn from my experiences, and spend quality time by creating memorable moments. They were everywhere. We couldn't stop this massive wave of publicity I remember we were in the eye of the storm. There was chaos on the eye wall and silence between us. She was scared. I was very annoyed. I had a terrible time with all the rumors of our personal life gone viral. The divorce, my admission about my relationship with Camilla, and the tragedy of Diana's death. I responded to every question, even when it was offensive or very personal, but that's never enough.
But I mean, that's become a national pastime, this sort of prurient speculation.
Even at Balmoral, the royal family is under constant surveillance by the media. The prince resents the intrusion, longing for more privacy than the zoom lenses of a tabloid media will allow.
I'm not very good at being a performing monkey, really. And I think that I am quite a sort of private person. I'm not prepared to just perform whenever they want me to perform on that sort of score. And no, it would be all right if they actually went away. But as I was saying, they don't. I always think there's a camera now. Always. Or something like a camera. And worse. I mean, it is extraordinary how now you feel, I do anyway, that wherever you are, there's somebody hiding behind something, somewhere. And with these immense cameras now, with these huge lenses and magnification, you can sit a mile away, quite happily, and photograph through windows and everything else. And they do.
It is announced from Buckingham Palace that, with regret, the Prince and Princess of Wales have decided to separate.
Since last Sunday's dreadful news, we have seen throughout Britain and around the world an overwhelming expression of sadness at Diana's death. We have all been trying in our different ways to cope. It is not easy to express a sense of loss, since the initial shock is often succeeded by a mixture of other feelings: disbelief, incomprehension, anger, and concern for those who remain. We have all felt those emotions in these last few days. So what I say to you now, as your queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered. No one who knew Diana will ever forget her. Millions of others who never met her, but felt they knew her, will remember her. I, for one, believe there are lessons to be drawn from her life and from the extraordinary and moving reaction to her death. I share in your determination to cherish her memory. This is also an opportunity for me, on behalf of my family, and especially Prince Charles and William and Harry, to thank all of you who have brought flowers, sent messages, and paid your respects in so many ways to a remarkable person. These acts of kindness have been a huge source of help and comfort. Our thoughts are also with Diana's family and the families of those who died with her. I know that they too have drawn strength from what has happened since last weekend, as they seek to heal their sorrow and then to face the future without a loved one. I hope that tomorrow we can all, wherever we are, join in expressing our grief at Diana's loss and gratitude for her all too short life. It is a chance to show to the whole world the British nation united in grief and respect. May those who died rest in peace, and may we, each and every one of us, thank God for someone who made many, many people happy.
You could feel the nation's grief. All of that deafening noise and wailing. 2.5 billion people watched the event worldwide, making it one of the biggest televised events in history. But regardless of people's pain, her sons were devastated. The loss of the mother at such a tender age was a shocking moment.
The period that followed was difficult, and my priority was to stand by my children emotionally and practically. Fortunately, William was a very mature and self-aware young man. He accomplished every goal of his and acted as a role model for encouragement for his young brother as well. I concentrated on the great charity work of the Prince's Trust and all duties I had undertaken as Prince of Wales.
Loch Mich was a favourite haunt for Queen Victoria. The Prince and his children often come here with friends of the family.
Do you like being with your children?
Of course I do. I hope they like being with me. But what is marvellous is to see them develop and start to get good at certain things and develop interests and all that. It gives me enormous pleasure and satisfaction and pride. Really.
Oh, horrendous foul! Hang on. Oh, he's going to be a substitution here. All right, Rory.
Prince's two sons are like other children, except that they're quite different. They will inherit privileges and duties which will test them to the limit. Their father believes that they will need one quality above all.
Sensitivity to others, which by any definition is actually called good manners, which I think a lot of people have forgotten. And also, on the whole, do to others as you'd have them do to you, which is not a bad way of trying to operate.
The Prince looks forward to their teenage years.
As they get older, there are more things that perhaps they, being boys, they could do with their father. And, I mean, that's, obviously more and more enjoyable.
Despite the anguish of a failed marriage, the Prince and the Princess managed to share the children between them without rancour.
God, he smells. He must be old.
No, I mean, as I say, we discuss it, but that's a matter for us, isn't it? It's not a matter for other people to decide how our children should be educated or brought up. But you can bet your bottom dollar they will all interfere and they will all say it should have been done this way, it should have been done that. But I mean, that's become a national pastime, this sort of.
Camilla was my greatest supporter. She loved me unconditionally for so many years. Her patience, even when everyone turned their back, was so appreciated, and I felt finally it was our time to get engaged.
title was given to King Henry VIII over 400 years ago, who had happened at that particular time to please the Pope quite enormously. So he was given this title, whereupon shortly after he decided that for some reason or other, it was because he wanted to get divorced, that things were rather different. The Pope was a damn nuisance because he wouldn't grant him the divorce, which again is one of the reasons why the Church of England developed, which I think is necessary to remember. And so the title then remained, rather because I suspect King Henry VIII liked it. And, well, I personally, you see, would much rather see it as defender of faith, not the faith, because it means just one particular interpretation of the faith, which I think is sometimes something that causes a great deal of problem. It has done for hundreds of years. People have fought each other to the death over these things. It seems to me a peculiar waste of people's energy when we're all actually aiming for the same ultimate goal, I think. So I would much rather it was seen as defending faith itself, which is so often under so much threat in our day, where, you know, the whole concept of faith or belief in anything beyond this existence, beyond life itself, is considered almost old-fashioned and irrelevant.
So a defender of faith means defender of those who believe in a God, in whatever form that you would want to encourage that, that capacity and that urge.
Yes, I mean, defender of the divine in existence. A pattern of the divine, which is, I think, in all of us, but which is, because we are human beings, can be expressed in so many different ways. I've always felt the Catholic subjects of the sovereign are equally as important as the Anglican ones or the Protestant ones. Likewise, I think that the Islamic subjects or the Hindu subjects or the Zoroastrian subjects of the sovereign are of equal and vital importance.
The cycle of life. It's a miracle. It's a blessing from God. Maybe it sounds strange, but it's so refreshing to become a grandfather. I rejoice in the presence of my grandchildren in a completely different way. I learn from them, and we laugh a lot.
She lit up the whole planet with the blinding light of her soul. The Queen managed to remain in everyone's memories as a virtuous example of leadership, a perfect role model for her successor. Her funeral was one of the largest ever gatherings of world leaders. More than 500 foreign heads of state, monarchs and dignitaries descended on Westminster Abbey to honour the late Queen.
It's futile to search for answers when you can just look through historical archives.
I guess I never hit the key moments of my life. I let each one become a part of my life, and over the years I personally answered every question you might have had.
Instinct and wisdom are the only tools which can guide us to discover the truth.
My deepest desire is to see you all reunited and remain each other, that we are part of the universe and members of one community. The hope for a better future will grow through each person's daily effort for the environment and caring for each other. You can't avoid your destiny, but you always have a choice how to live the moment. My choice is to serve my country and its people the best way I can.